Now, having seen 9 ways to make people like you, now you got a card which says 12 ways to make people think in your way. Now, only when people like you are they going to think in your way. So, therefore, these principles and these cards are going in a sequential manner. So, 12 ways to make people think in your way. The first principle says, show respect for the other person's opinions, never tell a man he is wrong. Well, you must know everybody has a mind of their own. So, therefore, everybody's perception is different. So, therefore, they are going to opinionate differently. So, show respect for the other person's opinions. For instance, if you're sitting in a hall, and then 10 of you are sitting in the hall, and I tell you to write a précis of 10 lines about the hall, I'm not going to get the same précis from everybody. It's going to be different because every mind thinks differently. So show respect for other person's opinions. Now you might tell me, okay, I agree to that, but why never tell a man he's wrong? Well, we have got no right or competence to tell somebody you're wrong. The reason is somebody says something because they feel they are right. And the moment you say you're wrong, they're going to activate the defense mechanism and they're not going to think in your way of thinking. That means the purpose of making them to think in your way is destroyed over there itself. So instead of saying, sorry, you're wrong, you might probably say, sorry, I beg to differ with you. We only differ in our perspectives. We only differ in our opinions. Just because a person differs, that doesn't mean the person is wrong. So therefore, never tell a man he is wrong. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never tell a man he is wrong. The second principle is the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Well, you must know, nobody has ever won an argument. Because behavioral science says, when a person is arguing, you cannot win over that person. Because argument is ego. It is more of who is right rather than what is right. So here a person might be wrong but doesn't want to accept that he is wrong because his ego doesn't allow. So therefore they are going to hold on to that point of view even though they are not right. So it is said the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Because argument is not about what is right. Argument is about who is right. So if you are an intelligent person, if you find a discussion is getting an argument, if you want to win an argument, the only way to get the best of it is to avoid it. So it is said there are certain things you can land up in the losing side, and argument is one of them. You might appear to be losing, but in fact you are a winner because you are intelligent. You know nobody can ever win an argument. So in an argument, it's not important what is right, it's important who is right. So never ever get into an argument and waste your energy. So the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Now I told you you can participate in a discussion. Because in a discussion, it's not important who is right, it's important what is right. So the qualification to get into a discussion is the third principle. It says if you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Now, in a discussion, when you're sharing your point, everybody's sharing the point, and probably in the course of the discussion, it is found that the data that you gave was not right. So, if you are a person who is discussion oriented, if you are subject oriented, and if you know that statistics that you gave or the data that you gave was not right, you own up yourself and say, sorry, I stand corrected. So, therefore, saying sorry is certainly a sign of maturity and never a weakness. So if you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. The next principle says, begin in a friendly way. Never ever start any discussion from a conflicting tone, from a conflicting angle. The moment you do that, the purpose of the discussion is lost because people will get stuck to that point of view and they're only going to think about that. So in order to make people think in your way, whatever be the situation, begin in a friendly way. Probably you can talk about something nice that happened in the meeting, nice that happened in the family, nice that happened in the company. So therefore now you build a platform, an environment for people to get into a mode of discussion. By doing so, in beginning in a friendly way, you help people to think in your way. The next principle says get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. This is an art of science of conversation. When you're making a statement, if you ask a question or make a statement where you get a yes for an answer, the next question or a statement you make, you get a yes for an answer. The third question or a statement you make, you get for a yes for an answer. Now, what you do is that you make the listener's thinking process move in an affirmative direction. And now, when you make the final proposal, you're certainly going to get yes for an answer. But on the contrary, if you ask a question or make a statement which gets no for a response, the next statement or a question you get no for an answer. The next statement or a question you get no for an answer. Now the listener's thinking process is moving in a negative direction. Now the proposal that you're making, however great it is going to be, you're going to get a no for an answer. So therefore, try to talk on an area where if it is even controversial subject that you're going to introduce, try to find out common grounds and establish it by getting that yes, yes, yes response, and you make the person thinking process rotate in an affirmative direction. So get the other person saying yes, yes immediately, and thereby you're preparing that person to think in your way. The next principle talks about let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Now we have got no problem because we are more discussion oriented. So if a person is talking more, it's good for you because you're able to understand that person, understand the intelligence of the person, understand the maturity of the person, because it is good when people talk, they are going to listen next. So therefore, never ever cut short a person, but instead let the other person do a great deal of the talking. And now you're certainly prepared that person to listen to you. Now let the other person feel that the idea is his. Now in the discussion, everybody throws in some ideas, some points and opinions. Now if you find something very interesting, pinpoint and say, thank you so much for that idea. That is a great idea and that certainly is implementable. Now the moment you make the other person feel that the idea is his, that person is going to feel good because there is somebody who is able to appreciate my good points, and now you can make that person, prepare that person to think in your way. The next principle says, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Now, many a time we are stuck to our point of view. We never see things from that other person's point of view. For all you know, that person is right. But the moment you get stuck from your point of view, you're not going to see things objectively. So therefore, it's very important to move yourself from your point of view, get into the shoes of the other person, see it from that person's point of view, and then you will appreciate why this difference arises. For instance, you got a card over here. Now, if I ask you what is the shape of this card, you might say rectangle. Now, I say it's a straight line. You say it's a rectangle, but I'm saying it's a straight line, and we get into argument. But if I for a moment stop and think, why is this person telling this is rectangle? Then I look over here and say, oh, from here it's rectangle, is it? It's fine. And now you'll be wondering, why is this guy saying it's a straight line? And then you find from my view, yes, it's a straight line. So what we are trying to do is that try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Thereby you'll empathize with that person and you will understand where they come from, and accordingly you can make your point and expression so that people can think in your way. The next principle says be sympathetic with other person's ideas and desires. Just because a person does not agree with you, that person does not need your wrath. Be sympathetic. Probably what they are saying is certainly not in line with the agenda. It's not in line with the scheme of things. So you might be tempted to get angry with that person, but don't. Be sympathetic with other person's ideas and desires. Thereby, you don't create an acrimonious situation. You certainly will win that person over a period of time because the idea that you're putting across is certainly a good one. Just because a person objects it, don't get angry with them, but be sympathetic with other person's ideas and desires. The next principle talks about appeal to nobler motives. Well, everybody has got two sides, the nobler and the evil. Now, if you appeal to the nobler aspects of a person, that person is going to think in your way of thinking, and that's the objective that you want to get established. For instance, you see a person whose cooperation you need, so you might be wanting to put these ideas across to him, so you can appeal to his nobler motives. I've been seeing you working so hard. I've seen you very disciplined. If you can do this, I'm sure it's going to make a world of good. So what did I do? I appealed to his nobler motives. For instance, if you appeal to the eviler side by saying you're always late, you are not punctual, you are indisciplined. The moment you say that, people are not going to think in your way. So therefore, find out the nobler aspects of the person, appeal to it, and then you'll find people take a liking towards you, and they certainly, you make them to think in your way. The next principle says, dramatize your ideas. When we say dramatize your ideas, it does not mean be dramatic. Dramatize your ideas is you get involved in what you're saying. Because if you just use words and express yourself, your communicating effectiveness is only 7%. But when you get totally involved, you also get into how you say, which is around 93%. So dramatizing your idea is getting involved in conveying your point to the person so that that person can also think in the way of thinking. Because if you're passively narrating, people are not going to be convinced about what you're saying. What you're saying, it's going to be in the intellectual level, they're going to only reason. But when you get involved and dramatize your ideas, you are genuine about what you're saying and you want your ideas to get across to people. So if you are really interested in making people think in your way, dramatize your ideas. The last principle says, throw down a challenge. Now, as a leader, you're convinced with what you're saying, but people are still not convinced. But you know with all your experience, it works. So if you want to get your ideas across, throw down a challenge. Because people love to follow a leader who's got conviction. With your conviction, you say, just do what I tell you to do, and you see the results. Just follow the process. And if anything goes wrong, I underwrite the consequences. The moment you give them that guarantee, the moment you throw down a challenge, people feel safe and comfortable, and they're certainly going to think in your way of thinking. So we've got these 12 principles, 12 ways to make people think in your way. Kindly live by them, internalize it and live by them. Then you'll find you're not going to waste your energy, you're not going to scream and shout, you're not going to criticize, condemn or complain, but in a very affable manner, you'll make people to think in your way. So let's go ahead and practice this great trait and great principles of 12 ways to make people think in your way.